Dr. Yamina, shall we get started?
I've already started recording. I thought you I started recording. I thought you already started.
Oh, okay. Okay, so أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome back to receiving your weekly Quran study. We have been on break since Eid Ramadan, and now we're back, inshallah, with another season. And Dr. Yamina will be leading the session as usual. We are welcome to join in with comments and questions. Actually, not just welcome, but highly encouraged. Inshallah, let's try to make this our opportunity, our weekly opportunity to delve into the Quran a bit more. Without further delay, I'll turn to Dr. Yamina. She's going to share with us her reflections on certain selected passages for tonight. A very important topic. I'll let her explain it. And Assalamu alaikum هنا.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. اللهم افتح لنا أبواب حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. بسم الله. So today I thought of sharing some reflections on the beginning of Surah Hud. I was thinking of from the first ayah to ayah 11, but we'll see if we have the time for all of that. Otherwise, we can continue next week, inshallah. So Surah Hud is Surah 11, and it starts, the first ayah starts with Alif Lam Ra, كتاب أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت من لدن حكيم خبير, which is roughly Alif Lam Ra, a book whose ayat have been made clear and have been expounded and distinctly spelled out, coming out of the grace of one who is all wise, all aware. So this surah starts with these letters, الحروف المقطعة, these disjointed letters. And if you've been following us with various surahs that we studied together, then you are somehow familiar with this حروف المقطعة, these disjointed letters. We've seen them in various surahs, like in Surah Luqman, it starts with Alif Lam Mim. Surah Al-Ra'd, Alif Lam Mim Ra. Surah Al-Baqarah starts with Alif Lam Mim. And here it's Alif Lam Ra. We did not delve on the particular letters, but on the nature of being a letter at the beginning of these surahs, and especially these letters being read as they sound, as they are spelled, not as they sound. So it's not a, la, ra, but alif, lam. So we are actually, although we're speaking, but we are spelling the words as if it's a written language. We've seen in the past when we studied Surah Luqman, Surah Al-Ra'd, and others, that they always appear at the beginning of a surah, and they are either an ayah on their own, like in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Ra is the first ayah, or part of an ayah as it is here. It's part of the first ayah, but always at the beginning of the surah, at the beginning, And generally, these disjointed letters are always followed immediately with reference to the Quran, Al-Quran, Al-Kitab, or the ayat of the Kitab. Like in here, we're told a book whose ayat, here it's both. book, and of course the ayat of the book are important as well, because that's what constitutes, in a way, the book. So far, I'm not going to go into the details, since we few times, like in Surah, we went into details into the significance of these letters at the beginning of these surahs, but very roughly, just to refresh our minds, we said that it is an unusual speech. It's a very unusual speech, Alif Lam Ra. It's like starting a speech with saying LMR, especially that we read them, as I said, not as they sound, but as though we were spelling the letters in writing, when actually the Quran is a recitation. It is recited usually out loud. And we talked about how this unusual speech interrupts our usual way of reading the Quran, or our usual way of taking language for granted. And so it is an invitation for us to reflect on what an ayah actually is. If letters, disconnected letters, are an ayah or part of an ayah, so what does an ayah actually means? And we talked about how this unusual speech stretches out the limits of our perception. It makes us realize that there are many things out there that are beyond our reach, beyond our understanding, beyond our extremely limited knowledge. And so when we read this, if we actually pause and interact with the text rather than just parrot it and read it and pass, we wouldn't be reading it then. If we are truly mindfully interacting with the text and listening to it, then we'll realize that we're feeling something is strange here, something is very unusual here. What are these letters for? And this is a reminder that we are limited beings and our knowledge is very limited too. And so we realize that actually what we know it because it is made known to us. In reality, we are inspired. We do not produce understanding. We seek understanding. We want to understand something, and it is given to us. It's a gift. And therefore, we need to remain in that mode of seeking understanding and praying and asking God to reveal to us the meaning of His ayat. And this is possible when we become aware of our limitedness. Because if I think I know, then I won't at the same time pray and ask for knowledge and for understanding and for wisdom. And so it's when I realize that what I know is only what is given to me. لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا, as we are told in another ayah in the Quran, then we realize how much we are in need of guidance and wisdom. So because the surah's opening ayah starts with this unusual speech, Alif Lam Ra, in this case, for instance, then we are made to in a sense, we can say, to wake up from our illusion of knowing that we take for granted, and we rarely, especially when we are not living mindfully, when we are living in ghafla, whether total or usually it's partial ghafla, then we take knowing for granted. And so we just read the words, and maybe we study the literal meanings. We check the dictionary, we check this and that, and that's it. Voila, et voila. We know. I think I know. But the reality is different. Yes, I may have figured out the literal meaning, but that's only the beginning of the process of understanding the ayat. It's only a first step. Then we need to listen and pray for guidance, pray for the gift of understanding, to be gifted, to be inspired with that gift. And for that, we also have to be mindful and make istighfar. Istighfar that, oh, I thought I understand just because I know the words, but it's not always true. It's actually not true, because to know the word is only the beginning, the meaning of the literal world. And so we practice mindful tazkiyah and istighfar in order to receive the meanings that are gifted or imparted onto us. So in other words, we need to let go of the illusions of knowing or the delusions of knowing in order to prepare ourselves for the receiving of the gifts of divine guidance, which are the meanings of the ayat, primarily the ayat of the Quran, and eventually also the ayat in the creation, which the ayat of the Quran are there to reveal onto us, to tell us what their meanings are. So then we realize that the words, like in the Quran, the words are vehicles to messages from the unseen, from ghaib, from our Rabb. And these messages are not meanings only, the messages that come with the words. The words are vehicle for messages that are not they're not constituted of meanings only, but also the accompanying states of being, because meanings, words, and those meanings have to be embodied and lived. Otherwise, they are not going to transform us and our perception of the world and our relationship to who we are, to our ubudiyah, and therefore to our Rabb, to rububiyah, and therefore to life and to akhirah, to the purpose of life. And so I have mentioned it before and mentioned again, a fascinating point, at least personally, I think it's fascinating about the disjointed letters, is that through them, we are made to realize, among many other things, but one very important thing that we are made to realize through these letters is that our Rabb is teaching us through them what the meaning of ayah, what an ayah is and what an ayah performs. And the concept of ayah is very central to the Quran. It not only refers to the units of the Quran, but also we are told in the Quran that everything that happens in the world, within ourselves and without in the world, every event, everything is an ayah. So unless we know what an ayah is, we're going to miss everything. It's a very key concept. And one of the beautiful functions of this disjointed letters is that it gives us, it's like a window onto, it gives us an idea. We start grasping slowly what an ayah actually means, which is very important. So we start realizing that ayat are like signs, like symbols, that they indicate meanings beyond themselves. And so it is therefore with events in life, especially events that we don't understand. They are like these letters, they are signs. And even those things that we think we understand, how much do we really grasp them as far as they're related to ghaib, as far as they are being there to guide us to akhirah, as far as they are making tasbih, glorifying God with his beautiful names, how much do we truly understand? So we start at least questioning our taken for granted when we think we are understanding. When we question that attitude, then we become more open to listen to the message of the Quran, to the ayat of the Quran, and to inshallah start benefiting from them. Because usually we name things, and when we are describing them, we name them, things, experiences, events, and things. And we think those names are, that's it, that we know. But those names are in fact different from the actual lived experiences. Let alone, so they are even different from the lived experience. They are just a sign, a reminder, a memo of the lived experience. And imagine now, let alone the reality of that lived experience. The reality of that lived experience looks to the Creator, looks to the divine names, looks to Akhirah, looks to Wajh Allah, as we learned so far this last few years during our studies in Receiving Nur. And so that reality looks to, is when we start getting a glimpse of the reality, which is what the ayah is going to disclose to us, the ayah aspect of things is going to disclose to us, then we will start getting in touch with the purpose of their creation, and therefore the purpose of our creation, because the purpose of human beings' creation and the creation of the world out there are intertwined and connected. And so this ayah says, Alif Lam Ra, a book whose ayat have been made clear and sound and have been expounded and distinctly spelled out, coming out of the grace of one who is all wise, all aware. كتاب أحكمت آياته. Here أحكمت, which is the مبني المجهول, like the passive form of أحكمة. It's to make firm, to make strong, to make sound, to make free from defect and imperfection, to ground something by means of sound arguments and proofs. So the fact that we are told that this book, أحكمت آياته, it means its ayat have been made clear, sound, that they are very strong, that the arguments are all, there is no imperfection, and so from the beginning we are told this. And why is it important? I'm not going into the detail of Alif Lam Ra, because someone may say, like, because I did ask and answer this question when we studied other surahs, because as I mentioned earlier, whenever we have these disjointed letters, mostly the Quran is going to be mentioned after. And many times we are going to be told that this Quran is very clear, the ayat are very clear. And someone may say, how is it clear when Alif Lam Ra are not clear? So we did answer that another time. But here we are told that the uhkimat, the ayat of this book are sound, and they are grounded in sound arguments. So from the outset, we're told that this is a book whose ayat are sound and free from any imperfections. And these ayat are uhkimat, also means characterized by wisdom. And right after it says, it has been distinctly spelled out and expounded from the grace, they are coming from the grace of one who is all wise, all aware. So he knows everything, he's aware of everything, and he is all wise, the source of all wisdom. Surely the ayat are going to be characterized by wisdom, and it is up to us to confirm that they are truly a source of wisdom for us. So this is an indication that realizing how sound the ayat are is a key factor in the message of this surah, because that's how it starts. Usually we start with the most important thing. The surah is attracting our attention, that the most important thing here is for us to realize that the ayat of this book are very sound. And how do we realize that? There are degrees, first by following the guidance sent through them. So by reflecting on the book, reflecting and understanding, that's one step. And then that step is not sufficient because the heart has to be satisfied. And that comes when we actually follow the guidance in our life and send through these ayats and confirm that truly this is sound, this is wisdom, this is the best thing there is, the best way to fulfill the purpose of our creation. And here it starts telling us what is the wisdom that is taught to us. So the next ayah 2, is worship none but God. أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ إِنَّنِي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ وَبَشِيرٌ. Worship none but God is the beginning and the end, in a way, of all wisdom, because everything else is contained in worshiping God alone. And the prophet here is talking, saying, behold, I am a warner and a bringer of good news to you from him, from God. So worshiping none but God means seeking him alone for all what we need, all what we long for. Why? Because everything we need, everything we long for is with him alone. So we can worship God alone only to the extent that we know who God is. There's no way we can worship him alone if we don't know who he is, if we don't know that everything is with him alone. And that's why you will see right the following ayat will start describing to us who God is. So you see the wisdom is unfolding right here and now. Subhanallah. And we're told, behold, I am a warner and a bringer of good news. إنني لكم منه نذير وبشير. Usually it is بشير ونذير. Bashir, giver of good news, comes before Nadir, warner. But here the order is inversed, which is again an indication that in this surah, warning is emphasized over giving good news. And if warning is emphasized, it means something very important is going on, something of great importance, something that can have a great consequence on our life is going on here. When we warn someone, it means we inform someone in advance of something, an impending danger, something, a grave situation, let's say. And so, as I always emphasize, warning from danger is itself a manifestation of rahmah, a manifestation of mercy and compassion, and it is care, especially that this warning here concerns our whole life's purpose. Can you imagine how seriously we take so many things that sometimes look to only not even few years, and there are things that we spend a whole a big part of our life we dedicate to something, for instance, like to a career, when it's like in itself, if it's not used to worship God alone, then in itself the career won't help us beyond death, beyond but we do dedicate lots of a major part of our life to it in many instances. So here the warning is about something, concerns something very, very important, which is our whole life's purpose. And not only our whole life's purpose in this world, but in the next as well. So our eternal life, it also concerns our eternal life, because our life, our journey through life is the most important journey we'll ever take. We are ever taking, let's say, because we are on that journey, whether we realize it or not. And so it deserves the clearest, the most accurate roadmap. And we need to be clear about our destination. Where are we going? How are we going? And that roadmap is the sound fitrah that is given to us at birth, and it needs to be guided by the ayat of the book from the all-wise, all-aware, so that we can navigate the ayat in the creation. And because we're not perfect, because we sometimes forget the destination, we sometimes mess up, then there is a guidance for that too. And we are told in the third ayah, ask your Rabb, your sustainer, for forgiveness. Then turn back to him. He will let you enjoy a good life until a specified time, and he will give you his favor to everyone who has merit. But if you turn away, then I fear for you the torment on a mighty day. وَأَنِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ يمتعكم متاعا حسنا إلى أجل مسمى ويؤتي كل ذي فضل فضله وإن تولوا فإني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم كبير. So here we are told, so ask your Rabb for forgiveness, then turn back to him. Turn back to him is make tawbah, repent. The original word in Arabic, tubu, is actually to turn back to God. Tubu ilayhi. And so the istighfar here, istaghfiru, asking for forgiveness, requires us to acknowledge our mistake. So we have to be, and to apologize. We have to be ready to apologize. That means there is an element of mindfulness. We have to be mindful so that we realize that we are going away from the straight path. And we have to have also that humility. Otherwise, people may realize their mistake, but they may not want to apologize. And that humility is very, very important, because it is the opposite of arrogance. It is the difference between, it is before we get to know the guidance of the Quran, what makes some people easily accept the message and follow, and some people, even though they see the wisdom, they still won't accept it. The difference is humility and arrogance. Humility is accepting our reality, our vulnerability, our neediness, and arrogance is saying, I don't care. I don't want to see the reality. I'm going to close my eyes to it. Arrogance goes together with delusion, with self-deception. And then so istighfar has to come with some element of mindfulness and some element of humility in order to acknowledge our mistake and to apologize. And then come tawbah. Tawbah is turning back to God. And this involved, it is a practical action, going back to God. And in practice, it is to take some action to protect, or some measure, let's say, to protect ourselves from repeating the same mistake again and again. So if each time we take some protective action, some measure, eventually, inshallah, we will be healed and we will remain more mindful, and our will be stronger. So we won't easily be distracted, inshallah. And so the next ayah says, unto God is your return. and He has power over all things. إِلَى اللَّهِ مَرْجِعُكُمْ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. You see how beautiful everything unfolds? Like there is no point in not turning to God. Like turn to God, make tawbah before you return to Him, because we are returning to Him. So rather do it mindfully and willingly. Otherwise, you won't benefit from the blessings of willingly surrendering and going back to God, returning to God. And there is no point in turning away from God and His guidance, because eventually our return is to Him. So, and what does it mean? It means that there is nothing, there is no one that can help us except Him. This is what it means. Practically, this is what it means. Turning to God, it means knowing that He alone has power over all things. It says, unto God is your return, and He has power over all things. He has power over all things. He has the source of all mercy, all power, all help, all generosity. So we can only seek help from Him. Nothing else and no one else can help us. So what's the point of turning away from God? That's sheer foolishness and ignorance. And it is depriving ourselves of all the blessings that deep down we are longing for, but looking for them in the wrong place or in the wrong way. And if we look for what we long for in the wrong place, we are only going to be disappointed. And in this life, we will be unfulfilled, but we can always run away from the reality and keep ourselves busy, not to feel that emptiness inside. But on the day of judgment, on Yawm al-Din, when everything is clear, no one will be able to run away from the reality, and it will be either for those who surrendered and asked for forgiveness and turned back to God, they will be very happy because what they knew is right will be right. And those who turned away from God will... Can you imagine the suffering? Just knowing that you missed everything. It's not like I missed a year, I missed 10 years, I missed not only a whole life, I missed the eternal life. It's can't even imagine how painful that realization would be. So to ignore the reality that we are turning back to God. Sorry?
Just want to take a moment on this, because we tend to, speaking for myself, I tend to really forget this very often, despite the study circle, that, this is a transient life, and it is meant to, it is given us as a capital to gain the eternal life, and to lose this is unthinkable. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, like, if we've missed this bus, if we missed this opportunity to eternal bliss, then what is left? And
there's nothing else.
And then, for me, like, a new semester starting, somewhere ended, and you go back to the hassle of this, that. And for those of you who are in different cycles, we all know those cycles where we get into a hassle, we get into a routine, and it's really as if we live in front of people's eyes. Like we live under other people's perception. Like, what will they think? What will they do about us? How will they see us? And how does this look? and constantly, and all of it is for nothing. It's shocking sometimes how I can.
We forget, huh?
Yeah, and then those metaphors in the Quran, those that metaphor of trade, right? Those who trade make a bad deal. You give eternal life to get something transient.
However good or valuable it looks, if it is transient, then it's no good. There must be a way either to make it, to find the eternal in it, or if there's no eternal in it, then it must be discarded.
And the thing is, I think that deceives us is as if we have to choose between being happy and content here versus being happy and content in eternal life. Yes, sometimes this is true because we're talking about lowly pleasure that actually doesn't really genuinely make us happy versus genuine happiness that goes into eternity. But as this verse nicely puts, when we do, as you were saying, when we become mindful and ask for forgiveness in humility and turn to Him, recognizing that all beauty, all power comes from Him, then He will grant you good enjoyment.
Yeah, that's actually the only way to be fulfilled in this world and in the world. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. And therefore, we cannot have a true goodness in this world if it is not related to the next world, because even if it is apparently good deep down, because we know it's going to end, it does not satisfy it. There is always that fear of it's going to end.
Yeah, exactly. And the other day, I was thinking, it just occurred to me, more as a feeling. Isn't that amazing? I said, this is too good that, if you have a problem, you ask the one who has power over everything. He listens to you. That was really a beautiful feeling. Like, He listens to me now, and who am I? But He listens to me, and every single thing that I go through life, even if it's very hard and difficult sometimes, apparently to me, it is traced with wisdom. And what is to fear except from Him? There's nothing to fear. And I felt like, wow, this is such a beautiful feeling. And this just came for just one morning. It came to me, and then, but the part of me is still wanting to, plunge into forgetful lifestyle. And it's a pull and push. But this is a good reminder, alhamdulillah, because both being warned and being given the good news, we need both to make the right existential choice every day.
Yeah. And the more we make that choice, the more mindfully, consciously, the more it becomes easier. It becomes part of who we are. Inshallah. That's the rahmah that's within living mindfully, and because we get closer and closer to God, we become more and more aware of who we truly are as ibadallah, as abd, as the one who is totally in need. Nothing stems from us. We're not the source of anything. Everything is coming through us, and therefore we just look at it and admire it and praise God for whatever we like that's coming through us, whether in our name or something given to us, and be grateful. So the more we do that consciously and mindfully, the more we realize, more and more we start getting to know God as our Rabb, the giver, the provider, and so we get closer. So it becomes easier and easier to remember, because everything starts reminding us of Him rather than being an obstacle. And again we come to the ayah, when we start seeing things as ayat, then everything will take us back to him, instead of when we forget that they are ayat and we think this is the world, these are things, I like this, and they are totally in our perception. If we perceive them as disconnected from their source, from their Rabb, their sustainer, then they become things that seemingly take us away from God. It seems like I can be happy without God because all the things that I love are around here. I have to first make sure I have them all. And that misperception is a misperception. It's of ghafla, of not knowing what the creation, the nature of creation is ayat, and therefore their purpose. And so even when I say everything is an ayah, I am a Muslim, I have to surrender, unless I live the reality of ayat, it will be very difficult. There is only one way, through the ayat, whether I say ayah or not, but the fact that I interact with them, everything will be a vehicle to the divine names. Everything will be like a mirror reflecting the wajhullah, the countenance of God, and therefore will be a reminder of my situation, who I am, what they are, inshallah. So in Ayah 4, it's beautiful that it says, Ilallahi, we're told, Ilallahi marji'ukum wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Not only unto God is your return, but also he has power over all things. But we would not really mind whether our return is to God or to something else. But if he has power over all things, then it's very significant, very important, the fact that we return to him, because then we have no one else to turn. Everything else is totally has no power. They get their power like us only from God. It's not from them. Anytime it can leave. It's like, I am alive, yes, but life is not from me. Anytime life can leave me. And so it's very important to realize that he has power over all things. And to ignore this reality is totally foolish and unwise. And so,
and also,
yes.
And also, when this idea of return, everything returning to God comes, there is a voice comes in and says, well, how is that possible? Everything is going to go away and all go back to God. So as if to respond to that, also the verse says, he can do anything. Whatever you become, you will be returned to him at the end.
Not only that, but he is going to, there is more answer to that question, actually. And it's an unfolding of the very beginning when he was saying that worship God alone, and we can only worship God to the extent that we know him. So now we're getting to know that he has power over all things. And in Ayah 5, we are told, truly, oh, well, not in Ayah 5, but we'll see in Ayah 6. Truly, they are enshrouding their hearts in order to hide from him, from God. Truly, when they wrap themselves with their garments, he knows all that they keep secret, as well as that they bring into the open. For behold, he has full knowledge of what is in the hearts. So now we know that he also knows everything. We were told he was all aware. He knows everything. Whether we bring it out or we hide it in our hearts, it makes no difference for him. He knows what they keep secret as well as what they bring into the open, because he has full knowledge of what is in the heart. And the people referred here to, it's a metaphor. They're enshrouding their hearts in order to hide from him. So people who are hiding from God are people who outwardly are people who do not believe, at least they don't believe in the divine origin of these ayats of the Quran. So in this context, their hiding from God has been understood as a metaphor for their unwillingness to listen to the truth and guidance sent by God. They are unwilling, because how do we hide from God? When we are not listening. So we can say the unbelievers, they are unwilling. But for me personally, I may not explicitly be unwilling to listen, but without realizing, most of the time, I may not be listening and following the guidance sent by God. I don't take it seriously. I don't take it to heart. If I take it seriously, it will be my main task. Everything else, what I do in my life, should revolve around it, should be made into a means to follow the guidance, into a means to listen to the truth and make it a reality of my life. But if it's in the background, or if it's from time to time, it means this ayah applies not only to those who never listen, but also to all of us who listen at different degrees. And you can see how foolish it is, because how can we hide from God? And how can we hide anything in our hearts from God? In our hearts, meaning we are not totally 100% submitters, surrendered to His will, totally. We still have wants and desires of our own, as if somehow we can find some happiness and joy or something outside God, outside what God has decreed for us. As if I have my own idea of how things should be. And be careful, mostly when we look into those, usually we are unaware of them. We do it without realizing. But if we stop and look at our ideas of how we are going to be happy and do things, you will find no akhirah in it. There is no afterwards. There is no true lasting future. Why? Because it's disconnected from the source of the happiness, the source of the rizq, of the providing, of whatever we are seeking. And so this ayah applies to us, and it is important here to realize that God, has full knowledge of what is in the heart. Innahu, inna here is, there is no doubt. Alimun bidati sudur. And how do we know that God knows everything? Because we are told in the next ayah, ayah 6, because He's the sustainer of all life. He's the sustainer of all existence. Everything depends on Him for its existence. So we are told in ayah 6, there is no creature on earth that moves which is not dependent on God for His provision. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا كُلٌّ فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. He knows where it lives and where it dies. It is all in a clear record. All is laid down in a clear decree. So you see, we are told why. Of course, He has full knowledge of what is in the heart. He knows everything, because nothing that moves, so it's not only living things, but even atoms move, and there is nothing that exists that doesn't move. Nothing is static. Everything is dependent. There is nothing that is not dependent on God for His provision. If there is something you think God is not, it doesn't depend on God, then that God is not the God described here. And we can go back, and is it possible that one thing is not dependent on the same source as everything else? That's impossible. Just we can look at life. Life is clearly from the same source. We all breathe, all animals breathe. It is the same, it has the same nature. And it's like the same light reflecting in different mirrors. So when we look at all the mirrors and we see they are all ayat, they're reflecting the same light, reflecting the same life, the same source, therefore the same source of life, one single source of life. And we can do this for all other, all the divine names. So subhanallah says, of course he knows everything. Of course he has power over everything. Look around. Is there anything that does not depend on God for his provision? And I have to start from myself, because, well, from the beginning, we can look at the world out there and we'll see that everything needs to be sustained. But unless I accept that in my own inner life, that I am totally dependent on my Rabb, then that truth, that reality won't sink. I won't digest it. It will be digested to the extent that not only I grasp it, but I also accept it and I make peace with it. And not only I make peace with it, but I rejoice in this reality. I rejoice that my sustenance does not depend on myriad of things that don't know me or don't care about me, but on the one. And it is, we did talk about how to find out that everything, the fact that everything is interconnected and everything is like me in need, nothing can be the source of anything, but everything is interconnected to make one whole, as if everything is made, each thing is made to be helped by everything else. And this system of interconnectedness and the fact that all creation and all creatures are needy just like me, and none of them can be the source of life or existence or anything that they have, they seem to possess, is a sign, an ayah pointing to the source of everything being one source that comprehends, one Rabb, one sustainer, whose power, whose sustainership is all comprehensive and encompasses everything. Not only his rahmah, but all his divine name encompass everything. And so the next ayah, so ayah 7, in ayah 7, we are told, وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ. And it is he who has created. So not only everything is dependent on his, for its provision on God, but it's because he has created everything. He's still creating everything. The heavens and the earth in 6 aeons, and his throne rests upon water, in order to test which of you has the best actions. If you say, behold, you shall be raised again after death, those who deny the truth are sure to answer, this is clearly nothing but a delusion. And it goes back each time to, you shall be raised after death. It means being raised is the rujur, the return to God. If there is no raising after death, it means there is no return to God. And so in this ayah, in ayah 7, not only we are told more about who God is, he's the one who has created the heavens, the earth, and his throne rests upon water. If we have time, we'll talk about it. I think we did talk about it when we studied Surah Al-Ra'd, because the throne of God was mentioned in the second ayah of Surah Al-Ra'd. But what is what attracts my attention here is that right after saying that it is God who created the heavens and earth, and his throne rests upon water. We are told in order to test which of us has the best actions. It means we are told that the purpose of creation, of the creation of the heavens and earth, and the water being the throne of God and the throne of the divine names, is in order to test which of us has the best actions. So the purpose of the creation of the heavens and earth is linked to something related to us, to the purpose of our creation. And here it's liyabluwakum. We test in order to test you, liyabluwakum. And the root is the verb bala, balahu, and the masdar is bala. And usually bala is often understood in the sense of affliction, of something negative. However, the term, language-wise, the term has two implications. I don't know if we have, Isra, do we have time, or shall we stop here and leave it for next week?
How does everybody feel? We have had a nice discussion so far. At the same time, I know Dr. Yamina wanted to especially come to this verse and this concept of testing, being tested. I think we can go another 10 minutes. How does everybody feel?
Okay, and then we can carry on the meaning of testing, this test and bala next week, inshallah. And maybe also in other, in the context of another passage in the Quran as well.
It's Surah Kahf, right?
Yeah. Surah Al-Kahf.
Inshallah, yes. And this is a very important and intriguing subject that we are made to be tested. What does that mean? And often misunderstood or underappreciated and deeply misunderstood, I think. So, Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina.
So here the term in Arabic, the term that's translated usually as trial or test, which is here liyabluwakum, sorry. It has two implications. One, it implies learning the state or condition of the object and becoming acquainted with what was unknown before. So there is an element of knowing what was unknown. Something is going to reveal itself through this bala. Something that otherwise would not. It's like if you have a seed, you don't know what the seed is going to, what the potential of the seed is until it grows. So there is this aspect of it. And another aspect is it implies the manifesting of the goodness or badness thereof. So it's not bala. We understand that the bala itself is bad. The test itself is bad. But actually, the bala is a means of knowing something. Here, if it's applied to a human being, it is getting to know the potentiality of human beings and getting to, so that they manifest whatever is in them, the potential, whether good or bad. So it's not good or bad in the beginning. It's what we do with it that's going to be good and bad. It means the bala itself, it is not good or bad, but the consequences of how we deal with it, how we respond to a bala situation, let's say, which are going to be good for us or bad for us. So the purpose of creation here, we are told, we see that it is connected with the purpose of the creation of human beings. And human beings are created to fulfill their potentialities. And that's only possible to the extent that they are mindful of their true destination, which is akhirah, their return unto God. And when they are mindful of their true destination, they realize how much they need divine guidance and how much they need to surrender and follow and live according to the divine will. And it is when they do this, then the ahsanu amala, the good action, the good work is going to start. Whatever they do then with that consciousness, with that mindfulness, is going to be good. Because anything else, anything that is limited to this worldly life, is only bound to perish, because the world is impermanent. And eventually it's not going to be good for us, because however good it seems, it doesn't last. And there is, of course, the worst, which is becoming more greedy, more selfish, exploiting others, lying. All those things come from not surrendering to the will of God, not being aware of our true destination, which is akhirah, not living with that awareness, not seeing the face of God in everything, meaning not realizing that everything is an ayah. So this test, this bala, is actually an opportunity for us to fulfill the purpose of our creation. And how is this important, or why is this important? Because, as it was mentioned earlier, when Isra was also sharing, we only find lasting joy and fulfillment when we fulfill the purpose of our creation. Outside the purpose of our creation, which looks to akhirah, which looks to the eternal, beautiful divine names, al-Asma al-Husna, there is no true lasting joy and fulfillment. Any joy is very short-lived. And because not only it's short-lived, but there is always within it that fear that everything will end, that the fear of death, and death in that situation seems, it's like a black thing. We don't know what it is. We're afraid of what's behind it. So Bala is usually understood as pertaining to affliction and tribulation and hardship. And from one aspect, it's true, because life is not always as we like. There's hardship as well. And so in, for instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is Surah 2, in Ayah 155, we're told, and most certainly we shall test you by means of danger and hunger and loss of worldly goods, of lives and of fruits. But give good news unto those who are patient in adversity. So, yes, is Bala can be, can refer to things that usually are hardships. They are hard onto us at least physically and emotionally. But when we know that they are ayat, when we know that they are created with purpose, not in vain, with meaning, with wisdom, with rahmah, then we start seeking the meaning, the wisdom, the rahmah in them, and the hardship lightens up, the burden lightens up. And so we start finding light within what looks dark. We start finding beauty within what looked ugly. The ayah is وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنْفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And in the next ayah, 156, we are told الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. So who are those sabirin? People who are patient in adversity. They are people who, when a calamity befalls them, they say, truly we belong to God and truly unto him we are returners. So people who see themselves as returners to God. Not one day I will return to God. I am returning. My yesterday is not here. Last year is not here. 10 years ago is not here. So we are returners. Those who are returners to God are aware that whatever befalls them for a reason, and until they understand or they see the light in whatever is happening, they still can surrender because they're sure there is something in here, even when I don't understand it. And with that surrender, it becomes easier to receive the message in the hardship. Otherwise, if I keep saying this is a hardship, shouldn't have happened, there is no way I can open my heart to the message in the ayah, because in that state, for me, it is not an ayah. I am blind to its being an ayah. But the sabirin here, those people who are patient, are people who say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. They know that they belong to God. We belong to God alone here. It means not only what I have, who I am is a property of God. My feeling, I want this is better, this is not good, all that is from God too. And we are returners to him. You see, it's very important, this return to God. However, Bala also pertains to goodness. In Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 7, Ayah 168, we are told, and we disperse them in separate communities all over the earth. Some of them are righteous, and some of them less so. We test them with good as well as with bad, so that they might return. Again, the return. وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا مِّنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنْهُمْ دُونَ ذَلِكَ وَبَلَوْنَاهُمْ, the same word is used, we test them, بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ, with good things, with beautiful things, and with ugly, bad things. لَعَلَّهُمْ, why? We're not just throwing things, God is not just throwing good things here, bad things here. No, so that they might return. And why they might return? Because if people don't return to God, they are going to lose everything. So it's again for our own benefit. And so what seems good and bad is constitute the bala, but what I do with it is what counts for me. It can be something very hard, a hardship, but someone will grow through it, and we get closer to God, closer to the reality. Closer to God means closer to rahmah, closer to generosity, closer to prophet, closer to all the beautiful divine names, closer to all what the human soul needs, closer to all what we long for, closer to all what we are busy working for. This is the path to all that. Not working hard, not doing this and that. All those on their own have no meaning unless they are related to God, they are dealt with as ayat, as blessings from God. And in Surah Al-Anbiya, which is Surah 21, Ayah 37, we're told, every soul is bound to taste death, and we test you through the bad and the good by way of probation, and unto us you are brought back. كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير. Before it was بالحسنات والسيئات. Good, nice things, beautiful things, and ugly things. Here بالشر, with the bad and the good. فتنة وإلينا ترجعون. And again, it's always so that you might go back to God. And so when we make the bala, the hardship and ease, what seems like a blessing and what seems like an illness, like a calamity, we can make everything is supposed to be a means to take us back to God, to take us. In order to go back to God, we have to go back to who we truly are as abd. Something to remind us that truly we have no control over anything. I don't even have control over my breath. How can I have control over something happening to me or over illness? And so it is a reminder of my reality. And when I surrender to that reality, then at least from that aspect, it's reminding me, taking me back to the path that leads to the only joy and happiness, the only true fulfillment, the lasting fulfillment that will last, not only that starts in this world and carries on in Akhirah. And the test itself, yes, is that?
Shall we pause here and continue?
I'll just share one ayah, and then because in this ayah it says that the test itself is good. Not only that we test you with good and bad, but the test is good. So in Surah Al-Anfal, we are told, وَلْيُبْلِي, I'll just go to the end, وَلْيُبْلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْهُ بَلَاءً حَسَنًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. So he does this and that, God does this and that, so in order that he might test the believers with a goodly test from him. So the test itself, لِيُبْلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْهُ بَلَاءً حَسَنًا. So for whom is the test always good? Al-mu'minin, the believers. For the believer, whether it's hardship or calamity, or it is good fortune and good health and good children, or whatever we like, whatever is given for the believer, it is bala and hasan. It is a goodly. So what makes the test good is not its content, but our response to it. And our response is the result of our perception of the bala, meaning what happens to us, what befalls us. Do we perceive it as an ayah from our Rabb, meaning as something created with purpose, with wisdom, with rahmah? Or do we perceive it as some random event that happened to befall me when I don't like it? What's going on? I don't really like it. I'm unhappy. So in the first instance, the bala leads to growth, emotional, spiritual, iman growth, living with ihsan, more mindful iman, which becomes ihsan, and to getting more mindful of being abd, totally dependent on our Rabb's rububiyyah, and totally dependent on his care, on his sustaining, on his rahmah. And so we start to appreciate his rububiyyah more and more, because we realize how much we need it, how much we are benefiting from it right here and now, and we become more and more grateful to our Rabb. And that's our worship. We become worshippers. Whereas when we remain unaware of the purpose of creation, not only we struggle with hardships without any end, without any purpose, because seemingly it seems like just like that it befell me and not my neighbor. So I am a victim and I feel that self-pity. Why me? And when things seem good, then there is this delusion and arrogance of self-accomplishment. But at the same time, hidden under that arrogance is the fear of losing it all, because deep down, I know that I cannot control it, that it just happened to be within my possession. And so there is no true lasting sense of accomplishment or fulfillment, because there is no true grounding and no true lasting future. Death seems to be the end of everything. And anything can happen anytime, because deep down, however powerful one may be, everyone knows that they have no control over life, not even over our own breathing. Yeah, so I'll stop here. There is also Sulaiman alayhi salam talks about being tested. He says, "Hada min fadli Rabbi liyabluwani ashkura am akfura." So this last point is actually well described by the attitude of Sulaiman alayhi salam when he says, "This is a favor." So he asks for the throne of the Queen of Sheba to be brought to him, and someone brings it to him instantly. And he says, "This is a favor from my Rabb to test me whether I'm grateful or ungrateful." So he knows that this is a bela. It means it is an opportunity to be grateful, or it could be also, I can forget. And when I'm not grateful, I am implicitly being ungrateful, because I'm grateful to things themselves. I am boasting about how good I am. It means I'm not grateful to God. I'm ungrateful. I covered the reality. That's why the ungratitude here, هذا من فضل ربي ليبلوني أشكر أم أكفر. Kafara here is to cover the truth, to be ungrateful. And whoever is grateful, we are told in the ayah, is grateful for his own good. And whoever is ungrateful, my Rabb, my sustainer, is self-sufficient and most generous. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So we'll stop here, inshallah. And next time we will carry on just to see the last 3 ayats of that I wanted to look at in Surah Hud, and also the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf is also very interesting. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina. So we'll continue this topic next week, inshallah. In the meantime, we pray for Bala and Hasana for all of us.
Inshallah.
Beautiful ayah that will help us grow, inshallah. And let's keep each other in dua. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah.
And remember to mark your calendars for December retreat, 22nd to 25th, inshallah.